My wife told me before I got up here, she said, hey, don't try to be funny, don't try to be smart, just be yourself, right? So we're gonna focus on being myself today and doing this. Before I get going, Coach Jack, good luck to you and the ladies on the road at Iowa State. So I want to take some time to introduce myself formally. Certainly there's the resume and the bio, but I want to let you know a little bit about who I am. But first I want to start with a handful of thank yous. Starts certainly with Chancellor Haney. You start this AD search, right? You don't have a chancellor, right? So you get the call and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who's my boss going to be? Who's making the decision? What's that going to look like? And then the search firm says, hey, I think they got it under control. I think they've got it really incredibly mapped out in terms of the cadence and how this is going to play out. Just trust the process. And so I said, okay, we'll start the conversations and see where we end up. And then I saw the news break about Chancellor Haney. And what caught my eye was his history of innovation and bringing things together that didn't exist before he saw them, right? And then it takes a special leader to have a vision, cast that vision, see something before other people see it, and then rally people to make it possible. So as I stepped in the Veteran Affairs office today and saw how that came together out of the ground due to your work, and then just your spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship, that's inspiring for me. That's the kind of leadership you want to be around to try to, because we need to think outside the box. And so I'm so incredibly appreciative of your leadership. To Steve Ballantyne in our search committee, you guys ran a flawless process. I think you step in that room and you look around the table. I'll tell you a story. I won't tell you where I was at, but I was in a room. I was sitting at the end of the table and I'm talking. And midway through my answer, I look to my left and I see Mike Tirico. And it snapped on me like, this is Mike Tirico. He was just at the Olympics, just at the Super Bowl. And here's one of our alumni sitting next to me, asking me about what it's going to be like to be the next AD at Syracuse University. And so that committee was incredibly impressive, incredibly organized, but incredibly talented. And it spoke to the power and the quality of individuals associated with this university. I'd like to thank Toledo. Dr. Gregory Postal gave me my first shot to be an AD, and certainly I've had other presidents since then, but that's a special, special place. And I know many of them texted me that they're watching. I've got over 700 unread texts and calls, so I promise you I'm going to get back on top of that someday. But Northwest Ohio became home really quickly. That department rallied around my wife, my kids, and I, and took us in unlike anything I've ever seen before. And as a first-time AD, learning things, making mistakes, figuring it out, they gave me patience and trust to lean in and try to make that thing special. I'm so incredibly proud and appreciative of all my family and friends back at Toledo. I've got way too many mentors and colleagues to name, and that's how you usually get in trouble, because I drop one name and then I forget somebody and then I get an angry text on the back end. So we're not going to do that. You know who you are. I appreciate all you do. But I will celebrate too. My mom and dad, Danny Blair and Woodrow Blair. Oh boy. Come on, man. So I'm from little Bennettsville, South Carolina. And my mom was my middle school principal. My dad was an entrepreneur for a number of businesses. And those are the two hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. And I learned that there is no way but hard work. You cannot escape the work, right? You've got to put in the time, you've got to put in the effort. And even when it gets hard, you work harder. You run harder at it, you bounce back, you swing when your back's up against the wall, and you come out and you take what's yours. And those two people, for so many reasons, taught that to me. My mom was always big from an educational standpoint. You've got to have all A's to play football, right? I later got to bend to A's and B's. But you've got to have good grades to be able to football. I never would have made it to law school had my mom not been on me about my academics early on and holding me tight to that. And then watch my dad struggle and succeed multiple times and get knocked down and continue to pick himself back up and never feel sorry for himself. Never cry, woe was me, or wonder why am I facing this. He just picked himself back up and he led an example for me and my brother to follow for years to come. So when I talk about my mentors, I want to highlight those two because that's me at my core. I'm a mom's son, I'm a dad's son. Danny and Woodrow Blair, they made me, and I think that's what shapes me for this moment. I want to thank William and Brielle. So those two with the headsets on, those guys, we're trying to keep them quiet and in place. we're holding on by Band-Aids between the flights and the late nights and everything else. But Brielle, 7, will be 8 this summer, and then William Bowe will be, he just turned 5 in February. But they're my everything. They're my inspiration. You'll see them around all the time. I believe in blending family with work and bringing them around. So I want to empower our staff and our team to not have to leave that whole side of you at home. It's critically important we come together. You bring your whole self to the office. Lastly, I want to thank my wife, Jenna. She's my ride or die. And she never asks really the why or what we need to do. It's always, well, let's get to work. You got this, right? Before I leave the house for one of my conversations with the chancellor, she said, you got this. Go show them who Syracuse's AD is going to be, right? That person that speaks that power and that vision into you for you to make it possible, because you'd love to say, well, all the time, you're bulletproof and nothing bothers you. But all of us have those days. All of us need that support. All of us need that inspiration. And to have that inspiration at home, I very much appreciate you. I love you, man. Thank you. Lastly, I want to thank the passionate alumni and supporters of Syracuse. Passionate is putting it lightly, right? And I think there was a moment in the search where I think a tweet went out, and it was celebrating the attendance at basketball. It was 20, 25, whatever it was. And then I don't usually check comments, but for whatever reason that day I looked at the comments, and the fan base was livid that it was 20,000 people because they felt like it should have been 30, and it's 30 on a bad Tuesday night again, so and so and so. And I found that fascinating, but also exciting, because who else in the world can say they're disappointed by that kind of crowd? But who else in the world knows their true ceiling, their true North Star is much, much higher, and they want to get back to that, right? That passion, that energy, that conviction, certainly we got to channel it in the right ways. We got to channel it to bring us together, not separate us. But golly, if we get that thing united, what can we accomplish together? That's why I'm here. That's what excited me. So you'd say, well, who are you, right? You thanked all these people, but who are you? I talked about my family. I live by 5 core values: family, passion, integrity, curiosity, servanthood. Right? I talked about my family. They mean the world to me. Passion, right? I match the passion, the energy of this fan base of our alumni, our supporters. What spoke to me through this process is how much conviction everybody on that search committee talked about their experience with Syracuse University and Syracuse athletics. I've never seen or heard anything like it to a person spoke to the power of what this energy means to you and why this is an important hire and why we've got to get this right. And I'm biased, I think you did get it right. Integrity, what does that mean to me? It means we're going to do things in a way that always make this university proud. I'm never going to do something that Bo or Bree have to read in the newspaper that they're dead embarrassed in. That's how I make that word real to me. Everybody throws around the word integrity. I think you've got to make it real to yourself. That's how I make it real to me when I look those two in the eye, to make sure the example I'm setting and the behaviors I'm doing, make sure they never look back and say, golly, I don't want that last name right now, because it's not any good. And so we're going to continue to hold ourselves accountable to that. Curiosity. We're always going to have a growth mindset. I always have a growth mindset. Everything we do can get better. It can be challenged. It can be thought of differently. And I would argue now in college athletics, with the sea of change we're facing, now's the time to lead from the front and think outside the box in terms of what this should look like. And certainly there's templates out there for a lot of different sports organizations and the like, but nothing that is an easy silver bullet for Syracuse athletics, because this place is unique, right? It's going to take a unique solution, unique collaboration, unique energy to pull this thing together to do what we collectively want to do and really leverage those unique assets. And then lastly, servanthood. I made the joke with the department earlier, like I'm the fullback of the athletic department, right? What's the fullback? Some of the people we didn't know. Well, it's the short, stocky guy in front of the run back that's making sure the running back doesn't have to take on that linebacker so they can score the touchdown, right? They're empowering somebody else's success. They're doing the dirty work to clear the way, right? So, Fran, you got a fullback now, right? I want you to score those touchdowns. I got your back, right? And so that's how I think about myself and our work as administrators, because we want a student-athlete-centered department, right? The student-athlete's always going to be at the core of what we do. Then we want it coach elevated, right? Our coaches sit in the home of those young people and talk to them about coming to Syracuse University. Our coaches are who they call when life gets rough. Our coaches shape so much of that experience. And then our administrators need to support our coaches in their endeavors to allow them to be the best version of themselves. But if we keep that North Star of the student athlete with all the business intangibles and commercialization that we will do and we have to do, we'll be really, really successful, but we'll also produce future leaders of this country here from Syracuse University. So you'd say, well, why Syracuse, right? You talked about Bennettsville, South Carolina, Toledo, Ohio, you lived out west of Washington. Well, why does this make sense for you? I think what I loved about this place is not so much what you have been, but what you can be. What excited me was seeing a place. I was a history major in college. I believe history has a way of replicating itself over time. Seeing the heights that this university has had over time, seeing the constant brand and how it speaks to an entire country, that everybody knows when they see that Block S, it means something special. And it always takes them back in time to think about memories, right? So how do we harness that history, that excellence, along with all the other intangibles that we have? So that's my vision, right? We want to wake this sleeping beast. We want to wake this thing up and take control of our destiny and make sure the world knows that Syracuse University is one of the top 10 brands in all of college athletics, and we're here to stay. So, well, what does that mean, Brian? How do you flesh that out? I think it's one win, right? I mean, Chancellor Haney talked about it. We don't get participation trophies in this thing. We keep score for a reason. I understand that. We've got to win, and we've got to win a lot. And I understand the pressure that comes with that. I signed up for it. I'm good with it. And I also like winning a lot, and I hate losing. So we're crystal clear on that front. And particularly, we need to win at all of our sports. We've got certain sports that drive from a revenue standpoint and a brand standpoint. They do things in a different way. And we've got to continue to lean into those to feed our entire ecosystem, right? And make sure we're set up for what the future may hold. And so we're going to really lean in to what that looks like. We've got to modernize our enterprise. And this isn't a shot at any of the work here, but more of an overall comment on college athletics. We've got a lot of places that are stuck in what was. And you look up and down the org chart or the way they do things, it's a lot of how we got here is just blending and morphing versus starting fresh and saying this is the model for 2026 and beyond. And so we're going to really lean into that modernization. And frankly, we're going to attack revenue generation. We're going to attack NIL. NIL is one of the most, if not the most important aspects of what we do. If we don't have talented student athletes and we can't win and be competitive, we can't drive the commercial enterprise to feed this entire ecosystem. We've got to be crystal clear on that. This is not a will I'll do it or maybe I'll do it. It's that we have to do it for our survival and our ability to thrive going forward, right? So we're going to make sure we modernize that enterprise. We're going to leverage our academics in our region, right? I feel like everybody I would bump into, I feel like you're a spokesperson for Micron. Everybody talks about it, everybody's loving it, and excited and here to tell me what it's going to mean for the region. And I'm so excited about what that means. And that came up frequently in our conversations. But also, as I look at our academics, right, you've got Newhouse and the quality of alumni from there that shape the narrative and the voice, frankly, of all of sport, right? We talked about Mike in the Olympics, but all of sport is shaped by Syracuse athletics, or Syracuse University, sorry. Think about the Falk College. Jeremy, I see you there. What we do in there is different than anywhere in the country, right? So we've got an asset, unlike anybody else, that can be our competitive advantage. I believe a competitive advantage is something that somebody can't easily emulate or copy that sets you apart. We've got those things at Syracuse. And lastly, I want to weaponize the dome. I want to weaponize the dome. We've got one venue. Most places have a football stadium and a basketball arena and a lacrosse stadium they have to invest in. We've got one, right? We've got one where we can build a unique, immersive experience that's unlike anything you see in this country, maybe outside of Vegas, right? So we're going to think outside the box on what that experience looks like. How do we create that home court advantage, home field advantage for all of our teams? And how do we bring something that makes our student experience here incredible? They say, all the things I did at Syracuse University were great, but golly, you remember that time we did X inside the dome. You remember that time where I met my future spouse. You remember that time where we high-fived after that memory and celebrated together, right? That thing is unique. Right, I just got my first glimpse walking inside with Chancellor Haney, and you probably saw my jaw go slack jaw because there's nothing like it in the country, right? And things like that allow us to really leverage those unique aspects. So in closing, one, I just want to say thank you for being here today. I walked up and saw the packed room and said, oh man, they must think we're announcing a basketball coach today, right? You guys are packed out, standing here, looking good, and so I appreciate you being here. Higher education in college athletics is changing more than ever before. We talk a lot about athletics. Higher education is changing. Society's changing, right? I mean, some of the things that are happening, whether it be AI or economy or otherwise, like there's a lot of rapid pace of change happening right now. The good thing is there's opportunity amid that change, right? If you don't have that change, things tend to stay static where they're at. But when you've got that change, you get to lean into that change and really shape your future and build on that change to accelerate your path forward. And so I talked to the staff this morning. It was really important to me to speak to them first because I want them to hear this introduction for their new leader first because I understand the transition and the anxiety that can come with that. And I tried to be myself and make sure they understand who I am first and foremost. But as we talk about it, a lot of it was about this concept of teamwork. And teamwork sounds like one of the easiest things in the book to do, right? Like everybody says it, teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. There's books, there's quotes. I won't bore you with all those. But teamwork's really, really hard, right? Because teamwork requires some sacrifice for the greater we over the me. Teamwork means everybody in this room's got to give a little bit of themselves to do something far greater together. That means we've got to set aside any personal agendas. We've got to set aside what makes us better for what makes all of us collectively better for everything that we're trying to do. But if we can get aligned around that vision, around that mission, around that direction, and pull together, row the boat in the same direction, we're going to be really, really special. And so when you take people of high quality and integrity, you take the right culture is what you celebrate and what you tolerate, right? You add resources to the mix and then you align it around a strategy, that's how you get excellence, right? So that's where records get broken, that's where national championships are won, that's where we reach our full potential at Syracuse Athletics. I am so incredibly excited to be here today, be a part of this team, and lead us towards this next era. Go Orange.